Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Sorry it's been a few days since I've last uploaded. I've been struggling over the last few days with some mental health issues. I've not exactly been in the best headspace over the last few days, so I stayed away from doing this for a while. But anyway, we're back now, and today we're going to look at a band that I've heard about, I've known about them for years, but as far as I'm aware, I've never actually heard any of their music. I don't think I've ever actually knowingly heard any of their music. And of course, I'm talking about Trivium. I don't know anything about the band, I just know of them. So, of course, I did a little bit of research, and there was quite a lot. And apparently, the information I've found, it does need to be taken with a grain of salt, because it might not be 100% accurate. It did say throughout the thing I was reading that some citation was needed. But what I found is that Trivium is an American heavy metal band formed in Orlando, Florida in 1999. The band comprises of vocalist and guitarist Matt Heafy, guitarist Corey Bolio, bassist Paolo Gregoletto, and drummer Alex Bent. At his 8th grade talent show, Matt Heafy performed a cover of No Leaf Clover by Metallica. It's actually one of my favourite pieces of Metallica music. Singer Brad Luton noticed Heafy and later asked him to try out for his band as lead guitarist. The pair went over to drummer Travis Smith's house, where they played a rendition of Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls. I'm seeing a trend here with Metallica going on. Impressed with Heafy's performance, they accepted him into the band known as Trivium, which is a Latin phrase meaning a three-way intersection. And they used this to describe their music as combining metalcore, melodic death metal, and thrash metal. So Trivium has an actual meaning to the style of the band as well. They played a number of local gigs with the... Luter played a number of local gigs with the band before departing about a year later. So pretty much the founder of the band left. In mid-2001, Trivium parted ways with its bassist, and they went on to ask Richie Brown from a local black metal band called Mindscar to fill in on bass duties until a full-time member could be brought in. A string of successful shows followed, and then a search was conducted for a permanent bassist. In 2002, Trivium went into recording studio to record its first high-quality demo. A copy of the demo was heard by German label Life Force, which signed Trivium, and the band entered the studio to record its debut album, Ember to Inferno. Lead guitarist Corey Bolio, I still don't know how to pronounce his name, joined after the recording of the album, and in 2004, Paolo Gregoletto joined as the band's bassist, replacing Brent Young. And this happened just before a tour with Machine Head, which is quite a high-profile band to be touring with. The album Ember to Inferno managed to garner the interest of Roadrunner Records, and they later signed Trivium to that label. And soon after that, they started writing songs for their major debut album with that label. But yeah, like I said, there was a lot of information, but it did say that there was some citation needed, so it might not be 100% accurate. Anyway, I've been waffling on for over 4 minutes. We're going to be looking at a track called A Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation. I think this one was suggested to me a long time ago. It's one that I randomly found in the YouTube comments from quite a while back. Yeah, I think we'll have a look at this and see what we get. Like I said, I've been waffling for ages now, so we'll jump to the song and see what we got. So this is A Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation by Trivium. Here we go. Okay. Very sudden end to the song there. Now, that was interesting. That was not quite what I was expecting. I mean, they said like there was a mix of metalcore, melodic death metal, and thrash metal. I think it said, and you can definitely hear all of the inspiration from all three of those in that one song. I mean, obviously, the main vocals throughout the song were those quite harsh growl / scream vocals, which one could compare to death metal, but not quite. In a way, I don't think they were harsh enough to qualify as death metal vocals, but they fit more into the sort of metalcore thing, along with those clean vocals, which I did not expect, that came in to the end of the track. Guitar-wise, you can hear the thrash metal sort of influence, and you can actually really hear a sort of Metallica style sort of inspiration coming in there as well. Whether it's the actual tone of the guitar or the actual style of the playing, I'm not entirely sure, but there's definitely a very old school Metallica feel to it. I'm talking like, we're talking about Justice for All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets sort of era Metallica, not the new shite. So you can see all of them sort of coming together, and they merge together very, very well. I did quite like that. There was that sort of guitar soloing towards the end of the track. It went on for quite a while. I think, in my opinion, maybe a little bit too long, but they weren't overly flashy with it. They didn't do what I call fret wanking, which is where they're just making loads of unnecessary noise and diddly doodling all up and down the fretboard. There was actually structure to the solo. It wasn't overly complicated, and it worked. It worked very, very well. Now, the song itself, the fact that I ended up picking this one is unbelievable. Because it's a subject that's very close to my heart and something very, very personal to me, because it's something I myself have been through, and it's a song about domestic violence. Having read the title, Gunshot to the Head of Trepidation, I never would have guessed that in a million years. But it's a song about domestic violence, and I've mentioned a couple of times on this channel that I myself was the victim of domestic violence at the hands of an ex-girlfriend of mine, who caused some quite severe damage to me. She broke my jaw, split my lip, she tried to strangle me. I ended up with handshake bruises around my neck for quite a while, and to this day I actually still have trouble with swallowing from time to time. So a song about domestic violence sort of really resonates with me. It's something that, like I said, it's very personal to me and very sort of close to my heart in a way. Now, the song actually goes: you starve your children on neglect, then feed their bellies with fear. Concussion, bat to the brain, witness to a battered mother. I mean, those opening lines just say everything right there. You starve your children on neglect, then feed their bellies with fear. So it's like you ignore your children, you don't pay attention to them, you don't care about them. So you ignore them completely, and the only thing they see from you is anger, aggression. When you do pay any attention to them, you're probably shouting at them or, violently attacking them. Or, they see you beating their mother, as it says there. Witness to a battered mother. Concussion, bat to the brain. So, he's talking about a very, very violent man. And it goes into the chorus: your abuse will end right here. No longer will your family fear. A gunshot to the head of trepidation. My promise if you ever lay a finger. So, a gunshot to the head of trepidation is like, I will blow you the fuck away if I see you hit them again, which I like. It says your abuse will end right here. No longer will your family fear. It's like, no, this is it. This ends here. This has got to stop. I don't want your family to live in fear, and if you carry on doing this, I will take you out. Great. And then goes into the next verse. Just look at the scars you make. Your terror makes your kids break. A broken home just as you were raised, with fists raised up to your children. So in this part, it's actually suggesting that the aggressor, I'm assuming it's a guy, but let's face it, domestic violence isn't always perpetrated by men. Vast majority of the time, this is true, but not always. Saying a broken home just as you were raised. So it's suggesting that the aggressor here came probably from a similar situation. He was probably violently abused by his dad, and his dad before him also might have suffered the same way. So, this is all that he knows. But he's like saying, this is how you were raised, but this is not how you shouldn't. You should know what this is like, so why are you doing it to your own kids, And just look at what you're doing. You're destroying your family, you're destroying your home. I know this is how you were raised, and you know how horrible it is and how badly it's affected you. Look at what you're doing. Why are you doing this when you know how bad it is? Then it goes back into that chorus again. Your abuse will end right here. No longer will your family fear. A gunshot to the head of Trepidation. My promise if you ever lay a finger. Then it goes into a bridge. I think the version of the song that I listened to, the video version that I just listened to, is possibly shorter than the album version, because there are some parts in the lyrics here that weren't in that song. Unless I completely missed them, or these lyrics are inaccurate. Which is possible, because it has happened in the past. I've brought up some inaccurate lyrics. I always try and find accurate ones. Anyway, it goes into the bridge. The battle is on. All you've made beautiful, now hateful. You wretched life wrecker, abuser, now suffer. Now, the battle is on. All you've made beautiful, now hateful. The actual wording this is a bit confusing. It's like you created life, you created these beautiful children, and now they're hateful and resentful towards you. You've done that to yourself. You had this beautiful wife. You had a wonderful life, and because you can't keep your emotions in check, because you can't control your anger, you've ruined it. You've made everybody hate you. You've made everybody dislike you because of what you've done. You wretched life wrecker, abuse, and now suffer. It's like you're a horrible person. You've abused these people. Now it's your turn to suffer as they did. They shouldn't have to deal with this sort of thing just because you feel inadequate or because you're angry at somebody else. Just don't take your anger out on them. And if you're going to do that, prepare to take it yourself. And it goes into a breakdown, as it says here. Open fire on the desire of the man. Open fire with strife will strike down the hand. If I can't make you see the damage you've made, I'll make you wish you'd never been alive. So, open fire on the desire of the man. So that's like, we're gonna break you down. We're gonna knock you down a peg because you might think you're superior to these people because you're beating on them, making you feel better about yourself. So we're gonna chip away at you. We're gonna knock you down a peg where you deserve to be because you're not a great person for what you do. You're a horrible person for behaving this way. And if I can't make you see the damage you've done, I'll make you wish you'd never been alive. So if you can't see what you're doing, if you can't notice or realise the damage you're causing to these people, then I'm going to make you suffer even worse because you're just being purely ignorant at this point. If you can't see how badly you're treating these people, if you think what you're doing is acceptable, then I'm going to make you suffer even worse than you're making them. Then it went into that sort of hey bit, and then it went back into the outro, which in the video version was cut shorter than the version I've got here, which goes open fire on the desire of the man, open fire with strife will strike down the hand, and that gets repeated twice. Then it goes open fire, if I can't make you see the damage you've made, I'll make you wish you'd never been alive. And then the song just very suddenly and abruptly stops, and that's a thing I quite like. It's one of those things that I've seen it in many songs, and it's something I've always enjoyed every time when a song suddenly stops, because it gives a sort of gives a sort of urgency to the message, you know. It's like, if you don't carry on, you're going to suffer. End of. Full stop. Boom. You know. So, you know, I like the way they do that. And, you know, I like the meaning behind the song, because obviously this is something that I'm very strongly against. You know, domestic violence is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing to go through. And, you know, for just a few days ago, there was this whole thing with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and Johnny Depp has had his career absolutely decimated by this vile, vitriolic woman. And, you know, they've had proof that she's faked these injuries. They've got proof that she like cut off the end of one of his fingers. She stubbed out cigarettes on his face. You know, she caused him real physical damage and real emotional damage, and she's sitting there putting makeup on, making it look like he's hit her. And, you know, despite all this proof that she's been faking all this, despite all the proof that, you know, none of this is actually real, he's still labelled a wife beater. He's being forced to resign from his role as Grindelwald, I think it is, from the Fantastic Beasts. I don't care anything about Harry Potter or J.K. Rowling plagiarising. But anyway, you know, he's being made by Disney to resign. I believe that's one of the reasons why he was forced out of Pirates of the Caribbean as well, because he was being labelled as a wife beater by like all these newspapers and stuff like that, despite all the proof that she's been faking all of this and she's the one been abusing him. And this is such a common thing. This is why you don't hear very much about domestic abuse from men, because we're made to feel pathetic. And even if we can prove the fact that we're innocent of that fact, we're still labelled as a wife beater. You know, back when I was attacked, you know, my girlfriend, you know, she broke my jaw. She tried to strangle me. You know, like I said, I had all those bruises and stuff like that. I had a split lip. You know, I was bleeding everywhere. And, you know, I managed to escape my house. And after escaping the house, I was arrested. The police came along. They saw me, you know, going down the street. They pulled over. They said, "Can I ask your name?" I told them my name. They said, "We've got to arrest you." And I didn't resist. You know, I just said, "Okay, that's fine." They didn't even put handcuffs on me. They just opened the back of the van, and I climbed in. You know, I didn't argue. There's no point in arguing, because you're only going to make things worse for yourself. Anyway, so I got carted off to the police station, and I was put in a jail cell, pretty much for 24 hours. For something I hadn't done. You know, she'd called the police saying I'd attacked her. You know, and there I am, like I said, broken jaw, pissing with blood, and she didn't have a single mark on her. You know, I didn't attack her in any way. I have never raised an angry hand to a woman. Never have, never will. You know, even defensive. You know, I'd never hit a woman back ever. Anyway, so I got arrested. I was in prison for 24 hours. They eventually came to the realisation that she'd been lying, falsified it, so I was released. But conditions of my release were the fact that I was not allowed to go near her, and I wasn't allowed to go near her house. And her house just happened to be my house as well, so I was made homeless. And I was homeless for a year. And add on top of that, despite the fact that it was proved that I was innocent of these violent attacks, I still had a mark on my police record. I can't remember what the actual name of it was, but I had a mark on my police record saying that I was not allowed to rent accommodation from a female landlord. I wasn't allowed to live in accommodation where a single female might be living. So, like, if I was in a block of flats, if there was a single woman living on her own in that same building, I wasn't allowed to live there. I wasn't allowed to work in an environment where I might be alone with a female member of staff. And I wasn't allowed to be alone in a situation where I might be alone with a female customer, because I was considered a danger to women, even though I hadn't done anything. So, this is exactly what the problem is going on with Johnny Depp. It's like, because he's a man, he is always seen as the aggressor. When I was arrested by the police, I was actually told that if a woman makes a call of domestic violence, a man, whether he's innocent or guilty, will always be arrested, regardless. But if a man makes a call to the police of domestic violence, the police will come around, and if they don't see any actual proof that the woman is, has been or is attacking the man, they will not arrest her, ever. So, even if they've got no proof that a man has or has not committed domestic violence, he will always be arrested. If it's the other way around, the woman is never arrested, unless they can actually prove domestic violence has taken place. Where's the fairness in that? The man is always seen as the aggressor. And it's hugely unfair. Now, like I said before, a vast majority of the time, the man is the aggressor. I will hold my hands up to that. But women are also capable of domestic violence. But because of the way that we are treated, because of it, like I said, I was called a danger to women. I wasn't allowed to get a job or a place to live because I was considered a danger to women, even though I have never raised a hand to a woman. I've never even threatened to slap a woman. I've never raised an angry hand to a woman. But I was considered a danger to women, even though I had never done anything. And it was proved that I hadn't done anything. And it took well over a year for me to get that stricken from my police record. I now have a criminal record. I now have a criminal record for doing nothing. And, I was essentially considered a wife beater or a woman beater because of a false accusation from this woman. And this is exactly what's happening to Johnny Depp as well. Even though he hasn't done what she said he's done. I mean, he might have slapped her back in self-defense, which, I don't necessarily agree with, but he's had his life ruined in the same way that mine was, even though he isn't guilty of the things that she's claiming. And this goes on all too often. And like I said, this is why men don't come forward about domestic abuse, because we also get the, haha, you were beaten up by a girl, or how can you let a woman beat you up like that? You can't say stuff like that if you haven't been in the situation. And unless you've been in that very situation, you don't know what it's like. It's horrible. And we constantly get mocked for it. We got, oh, why don't you just man up? Or the classic, and I've heard this one so many times, is, why didn't you hit her back? That's what I would have done. Well, that might have been the case. But if I'd hit her back, if she'd had a big-ass bruise on her face, then it looks, to all intents and purposes, like I attacked her. So either way, it goes bad for me. She says I attacked her, she hasn't got a mark on her, I get arrested, I lose my job, I lose my house. I defend myself, she has a bruise on her, it looks like I've attacked her, she claims I've attacked her, I lose my house, I lose my job, and I'm marked as a woman beater. So it's the same outcome, either way. So, this is just the way it works, and that's something that really needs to be fixed, because I've seen these chat boards or what have you. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, where women are talking about, if my boyfriend ever did this, that, or the other, I would, I'd beat him, I'd take away his PlayStation or what have you. I see all these things, these horrible things that women do to men, and all these other women are like laughing and cheering them on and saying, oh, that's brilliant, that's great, I'm going to do that to my boyfriend if he ever does X, Y, Z. It's disgusting, because, they're talking and joking about it like it's an okay thing to do. And that because they're women, they can get away with, mental and physical abuse of a partner. It's not okay. It's not acceptable. If men were writing on message boards like that, they would be absolutely eviscerated. It's not okay. And this is, we need to fix it. Went on a bit of a rant there, didn't I? I think I'll actually stop with that. And I'll, yeah. But what I will say is, if you or someone you know is suffering at the hands of a partner, if someone is suffering from domestic abuse, please do something about it. Reach out to them, try and help them. Or, if you yourself are suffering, reach out to someone, ask for help. There are ways to do it subtly where, like, if you're afraid that your partner is going to find out that you've reported this, there are ways to do it where, they won't find out. You've got to do something about it. Don't let yourself suffer. I mean, earlier this year, I lost a very dear friend of mine. She took her own life because of domestic violence. I have another friend who's, her life is spiralling down the tubes catastrophically because of a violent and abusive ex-husband. Don't let these things get out of control. Don't let these people get the upper hand on you. If you are suffering, or you know someone who is suffering from domestic abuse, reach out, do something about it. We can't let this sort of thing carry on. But anyway, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to take a deep breath and leave that as it is. If anybody would like to make a suggestion for a track for me to listen to, then please do so by all means. Drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would be a massive help to me. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire. Obviously, there's a limitation on how often you can do that because of trying to be fair to people who suggest through regular means like Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. And if you do suggest a track through those regular means, do know it might take me a while to get around to your suggestion, because I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day that I can't record them fast enough, and there's just so many of them. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those involving people of the alternative culture, but essentially they want to put an end to all hate crimes, and it's something I really believe in, something I really get behind, especially the attacks on people of the alternative culture, because it's something that gets widely ignored, something that doesn't get spoken about nearly as much as it needs, because it is a very real problem that's been going on for decades, but it's just widely ignored, and that's not good enough. Everyday people around the world from the alternative culture are getting violently attacked just because of the fact that they listen to heavy metal or wear alternative fashion. And we're talking about real severe violent crimes where people are getting hospitalized, with people are going in with broken limbs, or sometimes even more life-threatening injuries. And we never hear anything about it in the news. The last time there was any widespread talk about this was 13 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people and were beaten so severely that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he did thankfully survive. He was in a coma for around about a week, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember exactly. But Sophie Lancaster, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to injuries and she died. She was 20 years old and beaten to death because she listened to alternative music, because she wore alternative fashion. And this happened 13 years ago, and that's the last time there was any widespread talk about this sort of thing. But in the 13 years since that's happened, I know for a fact that there have been several hundred, if not several thousand more cases similar to this that have not been spoken about, mainly because no one died, and that's unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this sort of thing gets spoken about. I was speaking to someone the other day on my Facebook, a young woman who, when she was at school, she had her hair set on fire because she was into alternative music. And the teacher said it was her own fault because she wasn't fitting in with the popular kids. That is no way for a teacher to behave. They are supposed to be there to protect the children under their care, not say it's your own fault for getting your head set on fire because you don't fit in. That's unacceptable. But we don't hear about things like this. And that needs to change. Because by not talking about this, by not pulling people up on behaving this way, we're letting them get away with it. We're basically saying, you shouldn't do it, but, carry on. We're not going to do anything. And that's unacceptable. That needs to change. We cannot allow people to carry on doing this. How long is it going to be before another person gets murdered because they listen to heavy metal? We can't allow that to happen. What happened to Sophie Lancaster should never be allowed to happen again. It should never have happened in the first place. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that these sort of things are happening. Every day we hear about sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, whatever. We hear these every single day, in all facets of the media, social media, the news, newspapers, what have you. We hear these all the time. From the most heinous and violent of these crimes, where someone is murdered because of the colour of their skin, or their religious beliefs, or their sexual identity or sexual preference, down to the most petty and pathetic of these, where some entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. God forbid. We hear these every single day, but we hear nothing about these people that are getting beaten to within an inch of their life because they listen to heavy metal, because they wear alternative clothing. And that needs to change. We need to bring more attention to this fact. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously you don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it's a small donation through their website or something as simple as like one of these Sophie wristbands, or maybe even this one, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. The smallest amount can make the biggest difference, and the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.